This is going to be another discussion about the false use of words and terms to weaponize in the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish hate that is rampant. And in this particular talk, the term that I'm going to be discussing is colonizer or colonize. To colonize is to send, and this is a dictionary definition, look it up for yourself. As always, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. But to colonize means to send settlers to take control of another's land. And as I've discussed in other talks, Jews are the indigenous people of the biblical homeland of what is now called Israel. And so by definition, the Jews are not settlers. Now, I always promise to acknowledge when there are gray areas and there is nuance. And there is some here that I'll go into. But the threshold issue is whether the Jews are settlers or interlopers, and they are not. During World War II, the Holocaust, some 6 million Jews out of a population of 15 million were killed. And many of those who escaped fled to Israel. And so the Palestinian and Arab objectors to the Jewish presence in Israel is often based on the sheer number of Jews, European Jews, who came fleeing from the Holocaust. And their point is that at that time in history, they overwhelmed the population balance between Jews and Arabs. And there is truth to that. But the reason is the Holocaust. And it's inescapable that the Jews who fled the Holocaust were fleeing for their lives and seeking salvation and safety in Israel, when the rest of the world either would not admit them at all or place severe restrictions on how many could enter. And I should note that even the Jews that came into what is now Israel at the time, that was not Israel. It was controlled by Great Britain under what is called the British Mandate, and even the British imposed limits on the number of Jews who could come in. But let's also look at the Arab complicity in the circumstance that led to the Jews having to flee the Holocaust. In one of my other talks, I mentioned that an Arab Grand Mufti met with Hitler to discuss their shared desire to eliminate the Jews. And so the very circumstance that led to the Jews seeking safety in what is now Israel is something in which the Arabs were complicit. And so for them to complain that the Jews fled for their lives and came to what is now Israel to seek safety is akin to the little boy who kills his parents and pleads for the court's mercy because he's an orphan. Another point that is lost in the discussion is so many of the people in the United States who complain about Jews being settlers falsely ignore the fact that, of course, the United States is controlled by settlers, Europeans who came here and displaced first Native Americans, and then in the Southwest took the land from Mexico. In fact, it's a funny side note. Cheech Marin of the famous comedy duo of Cheech and Chong, he mentioned in a video, an interview somewhere that I saw, that his grandmother actually was born and raised in, as I recall, Tucson. And so as he quit, his mother didn't cross the border. His grandmother didn't cross the border. The border crossed his grandmother. And the point of my saying this is it is certainly hypocritical for those in the United States who are neither of Mexican descent nor Native American to complain about Jews in Israel, while they themselves participate as landowners and owners of the United States, not recognizing that they should return uh, everything to Mexico and to the Native Americans. And if the argument is they don't have control over what the United States does, so be it. If they own a home or other property, they can certainly turn title to that over to a Native American or a Mexican. So there's certainly a degree of hypocrisy. But again, I'm going to get back to the original point that the Jews are indigenous to Israel. It is their biblical homeland. They are the oldest civilization there. And a final irony in discussing this. Hitler's mission was to make sure that the white Aryan race reigned supreme and all others, including the Jews who were not considered white Aryan, they were to be eventually extinguished. So the irony is that in the United States, people complain about Jews being white Europeans, but to Hitler, they were anything but. And of course, the nuance, as I've explained in earlier videos, is that so many Jews are actually people of color. And in Israel, half of all Jews are dark-skinned and are people of color. Many of them being of Arab descent, being indistinguishable in physical appearance.